Xyla, exalted researcher of the Krell Imperium, twitched an antenna in annoyance. It was the third time he had rewound the stellar feed. "Review it again," his superior buzzed through a translator, its segmented body rustling uncomfortably. "Isolate any hidden patterns or linguistic anomalies. Earth must have a reason for this." It was madness. The Earthlings had abandoned their usual patterns of ordered predictability for 3 cycles. Their global communication networks buzzed not with strategic deployments or trade routes, but were filled with nonsense. The first sign was the colossal rubber band ball in Iowa. Humans had diverted industrial resources into collecting and winding rubber bands of all sizes until the monstrous ball dwarfed their buildings. And it wasn't an isolated incident. Every continent seemed infected with a bizarreness previously unseen in their meticulous Krell observations. Melbourne, Australia, was paralysed by an impromptu competition for the most coordinated swivel chair race, with thousands of office chairs commandeered to roll and spin through the streets. In Siberia, a group had begun stacking socks onto a man's foot, already surpassing the 300 mark and showing no intention of stopping. Each occurrence seemed explicitly designed to defy logic, drain resources, and deliver no conceivable advantage. "It's as if an illogical virus has overtaken them," Xyla chirped, antennae twitching with his growing unease. This wasn't war, but its effects were unsettling. The Krell had always considered humans a worthy if somewhat dull emerging species. This display of utter insanity called that assessment into question. His superior chittered harshly, a sound like metallic grinding. "This chaos could be a prelude to a surprise attack. We cannot underestimate them now." Xyla had to agree. He replayed the footage of a group from Brazil. Their project involved meticulously gluing feathers onto a startled llama. It looked absurd, but there was focus in their eyes. That manic focus, could it mask a more profound, deadlier purpose? He isolated images of hundreds of identical red shirts converging in Toronto. Were they assembling for a coordinated strike? The sheer manpower was impressive, even if their chosen attire was baffling. His translator whirred, finally spitting out their intercepted communication. "We're here to set the record for the largest gathering of people named Dave." Xyla was no longer sure who was pranking whom. Days turned into cycles of bewilderment for the Krell observers. The Earthlings' descent into whimsy only deepened. In Tokyo, a synchronized napping event paralysed the ordinarily bustling streets. Thousands lay splayed across sidewalks, parks, and even rooftops, a snoring chorus echoing through empty buildings. On the African plains, a bewildering battle raged. Humans versus an army of inflatable clowns armed with nothing but rolled-up newspapers. The Krell researchers' notes swelled with terms like mass hysteria and inexplicable cultural shift. But a small, subversive thought itched at the back of Xyla's mind. What if this is all on purpose? His theory gained traction when he noticed a pattern emerging from the chaos. The humans weren't working in isolation. The sock champion in Siberia wore 3 socks made in Australia. The chair racers wore shirts with the Iowa rubber band ball logo, and the llama wore a Canadian Dave shirt. "These aren't random acts," he blurted to his superior. They're connected." The older Krell scoffed. "More human nonsense. They likely don't even realize the interconnectedness of their own actions." Yet, with each new event, the feeling intensified. Each seemingly ridiculous act flowed into the next, forming an enormous, absurd tapestry woven across the planet. The tipping point was Greenland. Dozens of cargo ships had converged on the icy shores, not laden with weapons, but with unimaginable quantities of baking ingredients. Reports trickled in of a colossal, mountain-sized cake being constructed in the desolate landscape. They are making us watch," Xyla theorized, antenna quivering. "Perhaps this is their purpose." His superior's mandibles clacked in irritation. "Watch what? Their own demise into illogical frivolity?" "What if," Xyla pressed on, excitement edging into his voice. "This is a demonstration of power?" The silence on the comms channel was heavy. The Krell had always prided themselves on their strategic minds and calculated approach to galactic affairs. But what if there was a kind of power in absolute unpredictability? What if the galaxy had underestimated the strategic value of human absurdity? A sense of unease settled over the Krell observation post. They weren't just watching a species descend into madness, they were watching a masterclass in disruption. Xyla zeroed in on Earth again. It was one thing to stockpile weapons or deploy warships, threats you could measure and counter. But how does one fight giant rubber band balls and competitive sock stacking? How does a species focused on order and logic plan against a species dedicated to orchestrated chaos? That's when the laughter started. At first, it was a ripple across Earth's communication channels. Then, it swelled to a roar. Every human caught up in the grand absurdity seemed overcome by infectious mirth. And alarmingly, that laughter spread. Krell researchers reported pockets of amusement breaking out on their scout ships. Even Xyla found a corner of his mandibles twitch upwards as he watched a video of British citizens attempting to build a pyramid out of baked beans. It was ridiculous. It was glorious. "Commander," Xyla chirped urgently, "we're experiencing sympathetic reactions. The absurdity ... it spreading." His superior paced, agitation rippling across its segmented body. "This is unprecedented. We can't allow this silliness to infiltrate our ranks." But it was already too late. The Greenland cake, a monstrosity of frosting and sprinkles, was finally unveiled on the main view screen. Instead of attacking it, humans swarmed over it with forks the size of houses. The cheer that erupted from the planet was deafening, yet filled with such unrestrained joy that it was impossible not to be moved. Even hardened Krell warriors found themselves grinning, a bewildered amusement replacing their usual stoicism. Xyla finally allowed the unthinkable question to form. "Sir, what if this is their weapon? Not the madness, but the joy it brings." His superior remained silent for a long while. When it finally spoke, its voice held a note Xyla had never heard from a Krell commander, a hint of wonder. "Perhaps," it mused, "we have underestimated the strategic value of a good laugh." Word of Earth's grand prank spread quickly through the galactic community. What had initially been dismissed as a species-wide mental breakdown slowly turned into a tale of legendary proportions. The Krell, once stern observers, became unwitting ambassadors of this newfound human strategy. At first, there was skepticism. The League of Calculated Species chided the Krell for falling prey to such an obvious ploy. The warring hives of Xylarians scoffed, declaring that joy was a weakness that would be their downfall. Yet, curiosity won out. Delegations arrived on Earth not with weapons, but with questions. They wanted to understand the logic behind the llama, the motivation behind synchronized napping, and the strategic advantage of the bean pyramid. The humans welcomed them with open arms and buckets of confetti. Slowly, tentatively, the aliens began to participate. A Xylarian warrior found himself stacking socks with surprising focus. At the same time, a famously dour member of the League discovered the unexpected catharsis of screaming alongside thousands of Daves. It wasn't about understanding the individual acts, the humans patiently explained. It was about the spirit behind them, the willingness to break patterns, find joy in the nonsensical, and understand that sometimes the most potent weapon wasn't a death ray, but a disarming smile. The galaxy was changing. Trade pacts were signed while juggling watermelons. Peace summits were interrupted by impromptu pie fights. Even the Krell, once paragons of rigidity, started incorporating daily mandated silliness breaks into their schedules. And what of Earth? Well, they continued to push the boundaries of absurdity, always with a twinkle in their eyes. Some said it was a permanent change, the boredom banished forever. Others whispered it was only the first phase of their grand prank, lulling the galaxy into a false sense of security. Whether it was a lasting transformation or merely a cosmic practical joke of unprecedented scale, one thing was certain. The day Earth decided to ban boredom, the galaxy learned to laugh again.